They were live. We are live, okay? So if you put it on you, it's called. I don't think you put this one on. This one. So I think that. I don't think that needs to. Yeah. Just the one. If you want to talk about that,
I don't know because I'll speak at your Insecurity when they don't know everything is back.
Call to order, please. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Yes, Ed Wayner. Ed.
Here.
Susan Muniat.
Here.
Donna Mosier.
Here.
Brenda Owen.
Here.
LeMay Nyford.
Here.
Barry Burgess. Jennifer Smiley.
Here.
Beverly Hasty.
Here. Okay, at this time, we're going to give the oath of office to our newest member, Donna Mosier. Please stand. And raise your right hand. Yeah, right. I had to think of it as I'm looking at it. Okay, I, your name,
Donna Mosier,
solemnly affirm that I have read the Declaration
that I have read the Declaration
of Affirmation
of Affirmation
and Restricted Covenants,
and Restricted Covenants,
the Articles of Incorporation,
the Articles of Incorporation,
the bylaws,
the bylaws,
and the current written rules
and the current written rules
and policies of Timber Oaks Community Services Association.
Okay, wait a minute now. What was that last one?
And the policies
And the policies
of Timber Oaks
Timber Oaks
Community Services
Association.
Yeah. and will work to uphold
and will work to uphold
such documents and policies
such documents and policies
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
my fiduciary responsibility,
my
fiduciary
fiduciary
responsibility to the association's members.
to the association's members.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And John, prove a notice.
Yes, Beverly, as per your documents and Florida statute, notice was posted.
Thank you. Okay, the item on the agenda to discuss is the pool light project. I need a motion so we can discuss it.
So moved.
A second? Is there any discussion from the board?
What is the discussion? I mean, what is the?
What is it that why are we here? What's changed? Nothing. We did not vote on it, last time. We have to vote on the new, to, put in the lights, the extra lights that we need to get certified for night, swimming.
Okay, so it was my understanding that we were going to go back to the contractor and the contractor was supposed to add a guarantee to that we would meet the standard.
John,
Does that
can
happen?
you answer that, please?
So yeah, that was the vote. We went back to the contractor and as per email sent to the board on Monday, we did not get that guarantee. So at the last board meeting, there was no second option.
So today we either vote on it or we close the pool at dusk.
Well, I think there's other options besides those two. I understand that we're operating out of the standard. But we've been doing that for a while. If we, I want to back up a little bit and I have a couple questions about how the lighting contract, how it's written. I haven't seen the contract. Perhaps I should have gone online to read it, but how was it determined what kind of lighting was needed? And who determined that? When? And if anybody, since that original lighting contractor has looked at it again to see, I'm looking for somebody that's engineered it, that's gonna say, yeah, put this stuff in and it's gonna pass. That's all we have to do, but we don't know that. At least I don't know that.
I don't know that we're gonna actually get a guarantee. So
I believe, am I? No. All right. I believe that when we told the electric company, the electrician, that we didn't pass, they brought out the engineer from the lighting company. You know, the engineer from the manufacturer of the Dagmar or whatever lights. That the engineers looked at that and looked at what the certifying engineer sent, the diagram that we saw with the little numbers and this is how many. And that engineer with the lighting, with the electrician said to pass it, you need to put a light here, here, and here. So it was looked at by an engineer. And I know we didn't fail by much.
Lene, I was reading.
When we first put this out to bid, where did that information come from? And was everyone given the same thing to bid on? Or did it come from each electrical company? Who decided that this should work?
John, you have an answer to that?
We didn't put together an RFP for this proposal because we're not a lighting engineer. So each contractor that bid on the job bid on their own specs based upon the current location of the existing lights.
So was there a big difference then, apparently, between the engineer we went, or the lighting company we went with, and the other two lighting companies, since this one was half the price originally of the other two?
I think just going from memory, I think all proposals were based on the existing location of the lights. So they were trying to work as best they could with not only existing lights, but existing conduits, existing wiring, et cetera, et cetera. All of the proposals were based off of what we had existing.
Okay, so, was anybody here, I guess, anybody from Timber Oaks present when the lighting engineer or whoever it was that says this is what we need to do in order to pass? Was anybody with him when he was here? Can we have a report on what other options were looked at, if any, other than tearing up the papers and adding new lights on poles?
So at the time when the electrician came back for a follow-up visit with the representative from the lighting supplier, Beverly was actually on the pool deck. So the options were from the electrician were we could do this or we could do that, but the lighting engineer only gave us one option with his verbal guarantee, which was the 3 additional fixtures.
I did question about doing, adding double lights on the top, and that wasn't, the engineer said that wouldn't work. Did the engineer say anything about adding lights in other places other than just putting new poles on? Like adding to the existing building, adding to the existing poles that are out there that are not being used for lighting? Any other options besides tearing up the pavers? I'm very concerned about that.
So the company that did the certification wanted height. So additional lighting under the awning, additional lighting attached to the bathhouse building itself wasn't an option for us. He wanted lights that were higher, that were shining light in a downward direction.
So the proposal we have now, who's lifting the pavers?
We would lift the pavers in-house, and we're waiting for a proposal from the paving company to replace those pavers back in position.
So on top of the invoice, excuse me, and on top of the invoice we have now, we're also going to have to pay to have the pavers redone, correct? Do you have any idea what?
So I'm waiting for that proposal based on square footage. I would guess in the neighborhood of $800.
Donna?
And that $800 is not in the $400 or $4,000 that we're gonna be paying. So that's another cost. Now, did the original contractors, the other contractors, did they propose more lighting than just what we've got here, or were they just going to give what we've got now?
From memory, I can't answer that question.
I think we seem to be between a rock and a hard place here. There isn't really much we can do about it, but I think we need to look at those contracts, and this is unacceptable. We accept a bid, we figure that's it, and then we turn around and now we have 5,000 more, plus another 800 to 1,000 to replace pavers that were already laid. This is just, something went wrong big time to do all this with the idea that we should pass. It should have been done right the first time. I have a problem with it not being done right and having to now spend more money to make it right. Whether or not this additional money is still lower than the other bids, we're talking another day of the pool being closed, at least a day. That's if we can coordinate having the lights put in, the electricity, and the paving company coming back to put the pavers back in.
So, the one thing I can say, I do remember one figure, and I believe we had two other proposals. One was 15,559 for some reason sticks in my head. Now, what it was the same thing of taller posts than what we had, and it was a different head, a different looking head. But that was, and I don't remember whether it said it would guarantee that it would do it or not. Donna?
Sounds to me like either way, we're still back up to about that $15,000 price. By the time we add another 4,000 plus another 1,000 or so for the paver, you've already paid out almost 7,000. There's another, what, $4,000 more? 5,000? So I think the other contract should have been checked out to see if they were gonna be able to give a broader range on the light where the light hit or not. Then we wouldn't have this.
LeMay?
I think my biggest problem is, I was here one night after, I think we were here after ping pong on a Thursday night. Pavers were not even laid yet. The sand hadn't even been done on this side, and the lights were turned on. And I could see from standing inside here and everyone with me that there were areas that were dark. I don't understand why at that point someone couldn't have seen that and put all of this added to it at that point rather than wait and know that we're not going to pass.
Did you tell anybody on the board or John about that?
I don't think I was on the board. I would have expected, what do I know? I'm not an
Well, I don't
engineer,
need to.
I'm not, but even looking out there, had I known that dark areas would not pass on an evening swim thing, someone should have seen that. The electrician who did this should have seen that.
I know.
Don't.
I understand. None of us are happy with it, but
I think the main thing is I don't want to see this again.
Exactly. I agree.
Yes, I think from now on, we need to make sure, number one, all the bidders are bidding on the same thing. And if we're going to do something like this that requires county certification, that we need to make sure we know what the standard is and that the bidders know what the standard is. So that when they bid, they're bidding to complete the project, not do it halfway and then say, oh, well, now it costs more money to finish it.
Yes.
My understanding is that this was called because if we don't do it before a certain date, prices are going up. So, which is why we have the emergency meeting, and they're not going to guarantee it. By the next meeting, they aren't going to guarantee this price. So I guess,
We have to vote.
yes.
Brenda?
I will say the prices for wire have come down in the last week, so the bid that we got that included a lot of money for wire should be less now. So I think we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Certainly don't want to close the pool after dark. But it appears that we've been operating after dark in violation or out of compliance for some time. And personally, I'm not sure what happens if someone comes out and says, oh, you haven't passed the inspection. Is there a penalty? Is there a fine? Is there, then do we get closed down? What?
Go ahead,
What are the
John.
ramifications for waiting?
So that's a legitimate question, and there's also, so when we initially ordered the lights and executed the contract, I think there was about a 6-week wait for those lights to come in. So your question's a legitimate question, whether you proceed with this contract or not, do we continue to swim after dark until the lights are installed and the certification is passed because of liability, not so much because you're afraid the county's going to come in and fine you because of the liability that's involved in operating with an uncertified facility.
And so if we vote to pass the additional funds and additional lighting, when's it going to be put in? Is the wait time still 6 weeks for the lights?
I don't know the answer to that question as we sit here.
Are there any more questions from the board? Jerry, is it just about the lighting that you're going to talk on?
That's the only thing on the
Right.
agenda. Is there something else I didn't know?
No, I just wanted to make sure.
Oh, so
I was just clarifying that you were only talking about the lighting.
what, is there something else to talk about?
No,
Oh, okay. I'm just confused why you're asking. Because I'm up here to talk about the lighting for the pool.
okay.
Yeah, and how long do we have? I mean, did the county say this has to be done tomorrow or next week or within the next 6 weeks? Does anybody know?
I don't know. Lemay,
I think according to what John said is we're operating without them okaying it. And at this point, the problem is liability. If someone falls because we don't have adequate lighting out there, we're in trouble. We can be sued or whatever. So it's not a matter of the county coming in and fining us for not having the lighting corrected or in the correct position. It's the fact that liability-wise, we would be in trouble.
So
We would be responsible.
then what would it cost us to bring in some emergency lighting until we can get everything taken care of? Like get the stands up like they do on the outside, just to pop in and shut off at certain times and comes on at certain times until you can get this straightened out. Because nobody wants anybody, well, at least I don't want anybody to fall down there and get hurt.
no, we don't.
And so why doesn't somebody look into putting up emergency lights for the time being? I mean, if that's gonna make it safer for the residents, that's what we're all here for, to make this thing safe for the residents. We should look at getting emergency lights until you guys can figure out or get your act together on what you're gonna do.
John, is that feasible?
So the question is similar to that. We're asked of the certification company and he will not pass certification for any temporary means of lighting or any lighting less than what he's asking.
Change the liability, but
We're not talking about doing that instead of, it's just until. So would that,
just to make it safer.
right,
It might reduce liability except for how you get electric. Run extension cords across pool decks.
That could be bad.
That's more liability.
It may be, but we have plenty of outlets around there that we wouldn't have to run extension cords across places where people are walking. So, I mean, it's something to look into, at least to try and prevent someone from falling.
I'm not saying don't do or don't do it. I'm saying we won't get our certification.
Right.
Right. Go ahead, Brenda. Do we have any temporary lighting available to us that we could use? Or would it require a purchase? Okay.
I'm not aware of any temporary lighting that we have on site.
So we probably could rent some if we needed to. The only concern would be where would the wires run? I mean, from this side, it wouldn't be much of a problem. From this side, we could do it off, or we could just turn on the lights under the canopy, and I think that would light this side enough. Because those lights are bright.
One comment made by the certification engineer that came out, if the lights under the canopy would have been on, it's likely that we would have passed. But since it's not standard that they're on, it's got to be a standard thing. The existing lights that are on timers that come on automatically every night and don't require someone to flip a switch. That's what he's looking for now. If those lights had been on, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
That seems like an easy fix, just keep them on. What about why are we putting lights then, other than along this side? What about where are the other lights going?
On the either side of the belly band, on the other side of the pool, and by the shower.
On the other side of the what? What was the first one?
The
Belly band, it's the black line.
Okay,
So those are the dark areas on either end of that and directly up from the shower. They're dark areas. We have dark areas.
okay, but I don't see where I really don't see where even, just putting the ones on under the canopy would have lit up those areas. I know they're bright, but I don't think they light up 3 of the areas, just this side.
That's the human part of the certification process. It's not an automatic, it's not guaranteed. There's human involvement who walks around the perimeter of the pool with a piece of hardware that determines lumens per square feet.
Are the lights, the spotlights that are already on the pool house, are they on at night?
They are, I think, timer in motion.
Motion. Do they have the ability to be on all the time at night after a certain time?
They can be, but that question was asked also at the time the certification engineer was on here, and those would not be suitable to pass the certification process.
I understand, I'm just trying to get lighting out there in areas that are dark.
Yeah, would it work temporarily?
They're on. If you're out there after dark and you move, they're on. If you stop moving, they stay off.
So that would help with the liability.
That would, right, so here's my point, Ed, that I was trying to make. If those lights come on, if you want to reduce liability and have adequate lighting for safety reasons, if someone turns on the lights under the canopy, you have the floodlights on the bathhouse, then we're only talking about one dark area on the far side.
Seems like that might be a temporary fix. So we can decide what we're gonna do about this. Brenda?
I hate to meet this meeting that's already longer, but could we have a 7 or 8 minute recess so I could go out and look at the pool at the area we're talking about?
Yeah, we can do that, if you want. How many minutes do you want?
10 minutes, please.
Okay, we can take a 10-minute recess so that the board can go out and look at the lights. Maybe we should all go.
Should have somebody show you where the lights are supposed to not. You got it right there.
That's why we I call it Rochester.
The meeting is back to order.
Meeting is back to order. Thank you. Okay, are there any more comments from the board, LeMay? Or questions?
Well, we just went out and looked at all the lighting and I think, in my opinion, looking at it, I would rather put something like, even if it's like a street light, it's not gonna be as pretty as what's out there now. And it's gotta be cheaper than tearing up all those pavers, putting new wiring and everything else out there. There's 3 areas that need it, so raise some higher lights that shine down and illuminate those areas. It's gotta be cheaper than what we're talking about here. Because we're talking close to $6,000 till you're done. Because it was over 4,000, but between 4,000 and 5,000 for the estimate that was given us, plus another 800 to 1,000 for the pavers, plus the time it's gonna take in trying to organize everybody to get this done. I just think there has to be other plans we can look at.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Brenda?
This really is a question for John. So how difficult is it to have the lights on timer or something underneath the canopy, as well as the motion detector lights that are out there on the pool house?
That's probably an easy fix.
We could start that right away.
Probably early in the week.
This is Friday, don't forget.
This is an emergency, they're talking end of week, excuse me, speaking of.
How do the lights under the canopy operate? Are they, someone flips a switch? And the others are motion? Okay. Do you know if there's a switch on them to take them off motion and put them on? A switch?
I think they're on them. It's just a matter of changing fixtures and switches for all of the above out.
My motion detector light at home has a setting to be on or off, controlled by a switch or controlled by the motion. So I'm just curious if those lights out there have that same capability.
Are we talking just to emergency lighting so that areas are lit, or are we talking this as a permanent solution?
Brenda?
My initial thought is as a temporary solution, but it could be worked into the permanent solution. I think, honestly, I think we need some time. I don't think we should, first of all, be held hostage by a contractor saying, well, the prices are gonna go up if you don't do something soon. And likely we can't really do anything soon anyway, because we can't get lighting. It'll be 4 to 6 weeks before the lighting comes in. So I think if we could do something temporary to ensure the safety in the meantime, and perhaps have the engineer come back out and look at the options that we've asked, that we're looking at, we may have a less expensive solution, permanent, less expensive solution.
Are there any other comments? Jennifer?
I understand what Brenda is saying, but then we'd also have extra engineering costs. Would we not, to call him back out to,
Well, if you get this certification engineer out, that's a charge, right? That's $475. Because the hesitancy to give you an exact time on when we can make corrections to the lighting that's out there now, we would probably go through the electrician because it's around the pool, and previous board members have said that we should not be doing that type of work in-house.
what I believe John is trying to say is previous board has put the kibosh on in-house electrical work. So so for us to get the lights so that they are on permanently, and for the motion detectors to not motion detect, is going to be an electrician coming out and changing that. Is that what you were trying to convey?
So it's gonna be
So
some
that's-
kind of cost.
That's gonna be another,
You're saying our maintenance men are not allowed to put a switch or,
for the last.
Previous board,
Said no. For electrical. Am I correct?
the board,
Especially around the pool where there's water and grounding and bonding involved.
It becomes a liability issue at that point.
well, either
Because
way.
if they don't do it right, then you're gonna get.
Okay, so I'm not saying, even with our guys not doing it, that option has to be cheaper than tearing everything up and putting in 3 more lights. Let's look at other options before we jump at a $4,000 bill.
we have to do something temporarily.
Well,
Or take our chances that nobody gets hurt.
well, we've already discussed temporarily putting on the lights underneath here and,
How are we gonna guarantee these things? That's the problem right now.
but yeah, because you can't put a sign on it because that sure as hell didn't work.
No, signs don't work around here, people don't.
And you can't take the switch in the on position because they'll just untape it and turn it off.
Okay. Anne, you have something to say?
Yes, I have two things to say now. One, about the previous board not allowing the maintenance to do any electrical is a false statement. They denied the electrical being done up at the maintenance building. That's where they wanted it to be an electrician up there. Nothing was ever said about any pool work or anything like that the maintenance, it had to be an electrician. Okay, I have a question for the board. Did the board see the letter or the certificate from the engineer denying the, the passing of the, okay, what was the date? What was the date that you needed to be in compliance by? Generally, if you're, denied, you get a date that you must be in compliance by.
John, do you have that?
There's no date, we're not in compliance to offer after dark swimming.
And no date of when you have to be in compliance by for night swimming?
I think so.
We're saying no at this time, Anne.
Did we get any certification from them saying we are not in any compliance?
They showed us right where we,
No,
This has got the numbers here. Yeah, that's from. This is from Aquatic Engineering.
This is from Aquatic Engineering Consultants. GB Collins Engineering. Shows the areas where we are not in compliance.
Well, you already decided that we're not in compliance.
Oh,
Just repeating yourselves over and over.
With what, Ellen? With what?
Just my observation.
I didn't either. Could you say that again, please, Ellie?
I said, you seem to be, you know the fact this is all about because we weren't in compliance, and now all of a sudden you're acting like you're surprised that you weren't in compliance. And we know that. Isn't that what this is all about?
Oh, yeah.
Because we didn't follow the requirements from the county and from the certification. And, indeed, I don't like to hear the word temporary. I think temporary is gonna cost you money plus time, plus maybe being dissatisfied with it. And I think LeMay, what you suggested didn't sound like it was temporary if we just get, to me, it seemed like a logical way to address that. Is this died out now?
Sounds like it.
I don't know. Must have hit something. Okay, what do you think about all this, Mark?
No comment.
You should have comment. He's very good at what he does.
Ellie, what I was suggesting, I was not suggesting that as a temporary fix. I just think we need to look at other areas of lighting these areas without having to spend $5,000 plus.
That's the most logical thing that's been set up here, instead of saying putting wires and putting attachments and going around here and there. So there's gotta be an alternative. And, once you start filling in and doing temporary, it's never done right. And, it never looks right. And it just seems, following up on what LeMay said, looking for.
The temporary we're talking about is just turning on lights that we already have out there, just to help with safety for our people, not that it's not gonna cost us a fortune or anything else. That's just so that in the meantime, until we decide what we're doing permanently, it's safe.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with certifications or anything else.
Okay, all right, but what you suggested is in place of what we're talking about now, right? But then would that, John, mean that you'd have to get another contractor or another electric company, or you'd have to get a bid from someone else now?
I would suggest bids, yes.
Yeah. So if you're so in the meantime, as you say, you're just gonna do something temporarily to make it safe out there, which we hope will be safe. As far as wiring, if it means putting wiring and stuff like that where you're gonna be walking, that doesn't sound safe to me. It really doesn't. So just as I don't pretend to know a lot about all the engineering and stuff and whatnot, but I think, coming up with a simpler solution like LeMay mentioned, which I can relate with, it sounds like we ought to be going that way.
Thank you, Ellie, for your input. Jennifer.
Basically have a question as to us not being in compliance. What are the ramifications other than the liability? If somebody is there a penalty that would they shut us down if they found out we were operating?
So the only experience I have with Pasco County on this subject is during one inspection when the inspector noticed our after hours time on the rules signage where it's got the time the time that we close, right? So that inspector said, I'm not aware that you're certified for after dark swimming. You need to change your hours. That's all that I know.
I'm just wondering, do we need to just shut it down until we get this fixed? I hate to do that. I swim early in the morning and it would be, it would affect me just as much as the people in the evening, but, until we can get things set up, even if they're a quick fix with the switches and the lights and stuff, do we at least close it down for the weekend until the maintenance people can work on doing something?
Go ahead, LeMay.
I think we need to, I think we need some answers to these things. I mean, we're coming up here and, I'm not gonna vote for things when we don't even have the answers to the questions. My understanding was that without certification, the only problem we would have was liability insurance for the areas that are darkened. And now we're saying, well, we don't know if the county comes, if we're gonna get fined. Yeah, I thought this was answered already, that
So
county doesn't.
I can go back to, we used to have night certification on the certificate. When I was on the board, one of the first times that I was on the board, they, when we got the permit back, Debbie noticed that it didn't say night swimming. And then we went and found out, hey, what do we have to do? No time did we close the pool, but what did we have to do? That's when we had the engineer come out, and I think he had to come out 2 different times before we passed the certification. Now, I have not looked at the pool certificates, and I don't know what they say at this point.
Yes. Currently, we are under, it is yes, on our permit right now.
Right now on our permit, it says we're allowed night swimming.
Yes,
So
it's in the window and it expires on July 1st.
oh, okay,
Did out front.
all right.
Donna?
So am I to understand that we've got till July 1st to come up with a decision on what we're
That I
gonna do to
don't know,
get this fixed?
I just know what's stated on the certificate right now.
So we wouldn't necessarily have to shut down the pool, just
That's,
do something.
John?
So under our existing permit, based upon prior certification, it's not the certification that expires on July 1st. That's not some window of time that we have to get certified. That's based upon our pool permit expires at that date. The current pool permit has a light certification on it.
So basically, we'd still have until the 1st, either way, to get it fixed, right? Because then the pool certification.
So let's take a step backwards, right? Let's all recognize the fact that we're in Florida and we're in Pasco County, right? And my guess would be that most of the managers that you've had before me would not have even sought a recertification after the new light installation. And you wouldn't be having this conversation.
What's the process for renewing the pool certification?
it's just the permit.
That's the process that we're doing with the engineer. The engineer comes out and does their study and reports that study to the state and you get certified.
I'm asking about the pool permit to operate the pool.
Right, now we have to go to the state and resubmit an application so that we can get certification for the whole year again.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Mary.
My name is Mary Nottigal. I live in Buckfield Drive. I go to the pool in the hot tub quite a bit. Once in a blue moon, I go at night. But instead of closing the pool down, because we really don't know where we stand on this issue legally, why don't we just close it at 8 o'clock? This way, it's still light enough to swim. Nobody has to be put out of the pool. The pool does not have to be shut down. And it gives you guys time to figure out what to do with night certification and leave the pool alone per se. That's all I'm saying.
That's what we were talking about, was only closing it at dusk or 8 or whatever the time is.
Thank you.
John?
Beverly, just some more information based upon conversations with the electrician and the lighting supplier. There are options. There are options to change wattage on the existing light fixtures, add a double fixture instead of a single fixture. There's options, right? But this board is asking for a guarantee. The best guarantee that we can offer is going with the lighting engineer supplier's recommendation of renew fixtures in line with what we currently have. If we want guaranteed and we don't want to pay for repeat visits from the certification company, this is what the engineer is telling us to do. If we want other options, they're on the table. They don't come with guarantees.
It was my understanding that this did not come with a guarantee either, isn't that right?
Comes with a verbal.
Anyone else?
I think we've discussed it as much as we're going,
Yeah.
getting back into circles again. We need to vote.
So we need a actual motion to vote on. He just said so moved.
Open discussion. There's no motions on it. So we don't have a motion to even.
Sue,
I make a motion that we go with Lowry Electric. Oh, sorry. I make a motion that we go with Floyd Lowry Electric Incorporation for $4,780.69 and plus tax, out of the pool reserve for an additional 3 LED post lights for the pool, one on each side and one on the end.
do we have a second? Thank you. Seconded by Jennifer. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Ed Weiner?
No.
No. Susan Muniac?
Yes.
Donna Moser?
No.
Brenda Owens?
No.
Lemay Knight?
No.
Jennifer Smiley?
No.
Beverly Hasty?
No. Motion failed. Do we need to make a motion for after hours swimming or temporary limit?
I make a motion that the pool remain open for after-hours swimming with additional lighting being turned on.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, that motion carried. Okay, do we need to have, I'm sorry, do we need to direct John to investigate other options further, or does that require a motion? Where are we going here? I don't think, John, we don't need to do another motion to check into this, correct?
Now, I'm guessing the next best course of action is to try to get the electrician here at a time when some board members that object to the additional lighting could have this discussion in person.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I don't really know that we need an engineer out to end, or just other electrical contractors to give some bids on maybe adding additional higher lighting or streetlight lighting. I don't know what else you'd call it. As far as an engineer, at this point, I don't think we need to do that. We saw the engineer's report, which shows us the areas that need to be lit. I don't see spending $475 to have someone come out and tell us it needs to be done again. Maybe after we get some bids, have him look at it to see.
When I said the electrician, I think,
Okay, not
I
the
think,
engineer.
right, I think whoever is objecting to the additional proposal that we have in front of us should be here when that electrician comes back to talk, so that you can get firsthand information from that installer.
I would like to see the proposals for the different things, you know, you mentioned that there were several different proposals but they weren't guaranteed. Well, since this one wasn't guaranteed either, I'd like to see what those are and what the cost is of those without tearing up the record.
Debbie has this on file.
And maybe look at other electricians getting other bids rather than just one again, having the same gentleman come back. No, I'm
Right.
saying for the additional permanent lighting
Right.
to fix it.
Can you make that available to us, Debbie, what you have so far? Thank you. Okay. Good. I was gonna make a motion to adjourn. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion to adjourn.
Oh, why you all sit yeah, I know, why you going there and send you I just let the board know, I'm going to.
No man, but coffee.
And I'm leaving Thursday and she'll be back in Thursday.
No.
All right, on July 28th, and then I'll be here, so I'll be here for the August
We
meeting.
need no management
Be
company.
gone in July.
You're in for July.
On the phone, oh, yeah. On the way.
I'll be here for the July.
Everybody out there.
I don't think my great. Yeah. Oh, I am visiting right now. Oh, really? Nice to meet you. Y'all let me know where you're
I tried to make it clear
Yeah.